Welcome to the Busy Girl's Guide to the Bible podcast. I'm Andrea, and this podcast is my own ramblings and lessons that I have learned in trying to balance being a Christian, a wife, a mom, a writer, a business owner, a photographer, a blogger, a friend, a daughter, a sister, and the 1 million other things that make me me. What I want so badly is to teach other women that the Bible doesn't have to be confusing or frustrating or even over your head. I want to teach you the ways that I have learned to carve out time not only to get into the Bible, but to apply it, make sense of it, and get practical takeaways in everyday life. Okay, so I'm really excited because today, it's actually tonight, but you guys don't need to worry about that. I have a friend of mine that I have known for a long freaking time. Like, we are old now. So this is Jessica, and Jessica and I met in junior high. In 8th grade?
Yep, 8th grade.
Okay, 8th grade. And we were really good friends. Like, immediately, we had another couple of girls who hung out with us. And we were not the coolest.
Oh, no. Mm-mm.
We went through some awkward phases. We were we were the four weirdos who were, like, super obsessed with NSYNC. Which I think, like, I just think we knew, like, who Justin Timberlake was going to be. And we were ahead of our time.
Just a little ahead.
Yes! So,
per usual.
Yeah, obviously, like, we're always ahead of the curve. So, so we met in 8th grade during the coolest time of your life, like, when you're, like, not an awkward, sweaty teenager. Like,
no.
You're pretty cool. And, yeah, we just kind of, like... I mean, let's be real, like, Facebook kind of, like, kept us. Well, first it was MySpace.
Right.
First it was MySpace and, like, AOL Instant Messenger. And then it was the Facebook. And now, like, you know, we just, like, privately, quietly stalk each other.
Yeah.
And it's fine. That's fine.
It's the new way to show real love.
It really is. And so I just want you to talk about... your life and what it's like being a single mom and going through all of that and, like, what gets you through it and all that kind of stuff. So tell us your, like, wherever you want to start in your story, like, you take the reins.
Okay. Sure. I guess I'll start with, I didn't feel like I got married young since I was raised in sort of this very, like, conservative evangelical movement where my friends were all married by, like, 19 and I was, not. So I met my now ex-husband when I was 22. I was out of college and we didn't get married till I was 25 and I felt like...
Oh, wow. You were, like, old. Like in the church world. Yeah,
I was like a spinster in the church.
That must have been hard for you.
It was rough. I was like, I'm going to be alone forever. It's awful.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
And it's okay. And then, we didn't have kids right away, I guess. Well, kind of fast, I guess. I had my first when I was 27, a couple years later, and then my second at 30.
Oh, wait, can we pause here? And I mean, it would be just super great if you went ahead and posted photos of yourself and you're about to deliver.
Oh, yeah. I will absolutely do that.
I mean, they're so good. You look beautiful, obviously, is what I was trying to say.
Well, I mean, it's one of my shining days.
It really, yeah. The day that you had Mason, I was like, wow,
Mason.
That girl, she's so tiny.
It's like,
and beautiful.
Like if you looked at a whale and you were like, what's happening? Why is that whale sitting on a hospital bed?
Okay, but listen, your makeup and your hair just look bomb. Like, so
it's
beautiful.
It's what matters, I just knew there was so little I could control.
Totally.
I was like, this is all I have.
Like, but I have
curls.
eyeliner.
This eyeliner, that's it. Yeah, so those were on point. The rest of me was a little bit tragic, but yeah. So I had 2 babies, and shortly after my daughter was born, my husband told me that he didn't want to do that anymore and that he wanted to live a different life and that he, didn't want to be married anymore and didn't want to do it, is what he kept saying. And I was just, just had a baby. I was like, you're a brave man.
No kidding.
Like, you have a lot of balls to just be like, I'm out, and
Wow.
I mean, I'm trying to be as respectful as I can, because he has a different version of the story, obviously, but this is my perspective and this is how it went down. And, and so we worked through all that. Thankfully my parents were close by, so I moved in with them, and I had a 3-week-old and a 3-year-old at the time. Oh my
gosh.
And yeah, so talk about, your life completely flipping upside down. It's like, I felt like I just didn't even know what was up and what was down, and, where to turn, or, what to do. And we had a very strange breakup in the sense that it wasn't very tumultuous, or, we weren't fighting a lot. It wasn't, it was very calm and creepy.
Oh, that's crazy though.
Yeah, it was even a little bit weirder. And I mean, it's been 4.5 years now, and I've done a lot of therapy. And
yeah, girl, get it.
I think it, like, I can just only attribute that, like, first of all, to like the presence of Jesus, but also just to, I think I was just in such survival mode. I was just like, it was like all I think about was like protecting this new baby I had. Yeah. And I was like, we're just going to deal with all this later, I guess. And so kind of did that. So I moved in with my parents, and thank God I have worked from home since I had Mason, basically. So wow. I worked for a marketing company, had a really flexible schedule. And so thank God I was on maternity leave, but then when I did go back to work, it was amazing. And I was able to continue working from home and sort of figure all of that out as I went along. And so, it's strange. Those first couple of years, especially, well, it's only been 4. It feels like 1,000 lifetimes, but are a blur, and I think
for sure.
For when I look back on it, I think, I don't know how I got through it, because it was so overwhelming. It was so tragic. I just felt I was so broken. I just felt like everything I had ever known, I had ever believed about God or about family or about, life or humans, even someone look you in the face for 10 years telling you one thing, and then just, decide, changing his mind. Like, it was really, really difficult for me, obviously, but I also feel like that sort of fogginess, that kind of forgetfulness is also a little bit of a mercy, because I think it allowed me, it allowed me to sort of function and not have to process all of those hard things all at one time. So I think it was a combination of like, panic and anxiety medication, and then like a little bit of natural like shock, that I sort of worked through all of that. And I would say at the very beginning, I think I just was so, I was busted wide open, and I was like, all I had was God. And it was like, and it was a very, I don't know a better word, except it was a very violent exchange of like, I have trusted you, and I have done what you said, and I'm pretty much feeling screwed. And so like, now you're going to fix it. Like, you're going to do something about this. Yes, fix it. And, sort of working through all of that. And I'm so grateful that my church had a very, like, just obviously like perfect timing, had a divorce group that was starting up. That was like a support group for people in the middle of a divorce. And that was just a great starting point for me to kind of process all of those things and work through, how do you get up in the morning, and how do you talk to your kids, and how do you hand them off to their dad?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
It was just all of that. And this, at the same time, now I'm asking myself questions like, how am I going to support them, and where am I going to live, and what am I going to do? And like, all those things. So, it's definitely been like a journey. And I would say that my faith has been the bedrock of that, just because I know that like, that's what I go back to. But I do say that with a caveat that like, it is a complicated AF relationship.
Yeah, totally.
And
I think a lot of people have that, like if it were a Facebook post, like
Yeah.
God and I are in a complicated relationship.
Very complicated. I think I relate very much to Jacob in the Bible, and only the scene where he's like fighting with the angel for the broken hip, you know, like I feel like that is me. And that has been a characteristic of my relationship with God. I'm just like constantly fighting, like, what are you doing? Like, what is happening? But I want the blessing, you know, I do. And I'm trying to understand, I'm trying to figure it out. And so we're just kind of going back and forth
Just
there.
like winging it.
Right? We're just one day at a time. And I have and it makes it super special because I have a super of course, my whole life is complicated, but I have a difficult church history too. And so that makes it really hard to sort of plug into like a community there. So we go to church and I love my church and the kids love it and the children's ministry is great, but I'm not anxious to make really close relationships and like put myself in like a small group and do the things that like I probably should be doing. I'm more just like, hey, thanks for coming. Like, please don't talk to me.
Please don't talk to me. I'm going to play on my phone during friendship time.
And friendship time is a no for me.
I always hold my friend Rayma's baby because I'm like, oh, you can't shake my hand. You can't touch me.
Can't touch me.
That's right.
I just feel like it's just like a very uncomfortable part of church, and I'm on a mission to have it eradicated.
It's literally the worst thing ever. And I don't see it in the Bible, so let's just talk about that.
Same. Don't find it in the Bible.
Right. So a couple of questions about that.
Yeah.
So do you feel like your complicated relationship with church is the reason that you're like me about like meeting people at church, or is it more because you're like the divorce stuff? Are you just like, man, no thanks?
I think it's actually like heavily the divorce stuff. I mean, it's definitely a combination of the two because part of me is just very like gun shy of like making more, but it's like everything. It's like making more relationships with people that could potentially burn out and having to face that again and again and again. I think that's part of it, but also it's like, I'm exhausted of this story. I'm so tired. I'm like, how are you? And I'm like, oh, do you want to know?
Let me tell you everything that's ever happened to me.
Let me tell you. My daughter told me today that she hopes that I get arrested so she can go live with her dad and his mistress. Like, that's what I heard on the way to church. What did you hear? Like,
oh my gosh.
It's just, you know, like
hilarious. Your kids are hilarious. I mean, that's not super funny. It is funny. But your kids. She's
been funnier, but yeah,
she's funnier than Mason for sure.
She's
maybe because she's meaner.
And that's exactly it. Mason's funny because he's like weird and loves science, weird in a good way. But she's funny because she's cruel. Like kind of mean. I'm like, dang girl. So yeah, so I would say it's definitely both. It's both aspects, and it's hard for me to feel like I have a place, you know, because it's like I feel like there are a lot of older divorced people and they have older kids who are sort of in college or grown. And then there's like the young adults group, and I'm not that.
Yes, we are.
At all.
Yes, we are.
I tried. Like, I will say this story. I did try. Like, somebody at church was like, well, just try it. It's like for like young 30s or whatever. And I sat in there and I was like, I don't think this is
super my vibe.
No, not sure that I have like Coachella tickets to worry about or anything like that.
Coachella. Stop it.
Yeah.
No, we want to stay in and watch Law and Order in our sweats.
Yeah, I'm definitely not putting sparkles in my hair.
Ew. Is that what you do now? Stop it.
That's disgusting. It's like such a thing.
That's like such a throwback to the 90s.
I know. I'm like, you don't have it in a roll-on like I did.
For real.
So.
My eyelids were always sticking together.
So
they were glittery. They were sticky.
Sick.
Yep. Oh my gosh. So
yeah.
How did you like, I know Scarlett was obviously like a peanut, but what about Mason when you guys decided like, or when he was like, hey, just kidding, I changed my mind, like, peace out.
Yeah.
How did you like address that with Mason?
So that was really hard. And here's one thing that I think, like, if I had it to do over again, I would do it differently. But I tried very hard to stick to just like very brief facts. I mean, he was 3, so it was just very simple. Like, mommy and daddy aren't going to live together anymore. We're going to go live with grandma and grandpa. You're going to see daddy every other weekend. Everything is fine. Like, That's, we still love you. Very simple to the point. And he would ask, like, why? Why are you packing? Why are we moving? Like, why, all these things.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just stick to the line, like, mommy and daddy aren't together anymore. We're going, I was very, just very, like, I didn't divert ever from that. And as he got a little bit older and started asking more and more questions, I think what happened is he started to fill in the blanks himself, because he was like, I'm not stupid. Like, that's not all that there is to this story. And you're playing me like I'm dumb. And this took, probably a year, I would say, before I'll never forget. We were driving home from a birthday party or something. And he was in the back seat and he was like, hey, why can't you and daddy live together anymore? Because we was something we were at together, and we're very cordial. I'm not going to say friendly. We're not friends, but we're very good at co-parenting. We are very amicable. It is very, like, peaceful when we're together. And we were leaving one of those events, and he was like, I don't understand. Like, you guys like each other. Why can't you move back in with daddy?
Right.
And I was like, well, Mason, we talked about this. And he stopped me and he said, if you're going to tell me the same lie you've been telling me since we moved, I don't want to hear it.
Whoa.
And I was like,
I just want to say, though, that that's your fault, because he's really smart because of you.
Yeah, well,
so he can read through that.
He read me like a book. Like, it was so
That's
intense.
hilarious.
And I fully stuttered and was just like, oh my God, like, I don't even remember what I said after that. But I reached out to a therapist friend of mine after that and was like, what in the hell do I do? Like, I don't want to tell him the truth, because
he's a kid. He doesn't need to know that.
He's a child, and that's his dad. Like,
right.
He doesn't need to know, and he'll figure things out on his own and all those things. But I'm like, but at the same time, I don't want to lie to my kid. And so thankfully, really good therapist friend helped me work through and the three of us actually met together and talked through and gave a better answer. That was like, mommy and daddy, like, people, then just explain to him the whole thing that, like, you can get married and then you're not married anymore, but you're still parents and you still love the child. You still have affection for each other to some degree because you care about the same thing. And that helped a lot. But I did more reading and a lot more research about just child development and, how their brains form and how things work. And just this whole concept of, like, if you don't fill in the blanks for them, they will. And they're just babies. And so not to overload them with adult themes or difficult things, but, like, to constantly replay the facts. So, no, mommy didn't leave daddy. No, mommy didn't, we didn't abandon daddy. Daddy's not alone. These are the things that he was thinking because he doesn't have any other frame of reference. So that is definitely something I would do differently, because I just was like, I was trying so hard not to speak poorly of his dad. I was trying so hard to just to not say anything, that I think it was actually a detriment. So we had to
that's really cool. We actually had a situation today where I was like, I wanted to tell Maddie, like, a little more information, and Josh was like, no, like, just let her, like, figure it out. And I was like, man, she's gonna fill in the blanks. Like, I don't like, I would rather, like, get ahead of it and be able to say, these are the facts that are age appropriate for you as an 8-year-old, rather than, hey, just find out from your friends.
I mean, it's a really hard thing. And the book that I read is called The Whole Brain Child, and it's just very good at sort of walking you through, like, what they hear, what they think, and then our different developmental phases for them, like, what that means. And when you're dealing with difficult, like, life is hard, and part of our job is training them how to absorb that information, to process it, and then to respond. And I think that starts at a young age, and that's a hard one. I'm
absolutely.
I'd rather just not talk about it.
Well, because you're absorbing everything, and there are times when you're like, this is overwhelming, having the information that I have. So how could it possibly be good to give any information to your child?
Exactly. And we do have those talks too. Yeah, and it's to protect them. And I have had those days where I'm just like, you know what? Mommy's actually having a really hard time with what you're having a hard time with, and I really can't talk about it. Like, I'm sorry,
Right.
you know, I can't. And they don't like that, and I wouldn't like it either. But I feel like that's taking that space is even better than like maybe spouting off something you'd regret, you know, because it's like, hello, this is hard stuff. Like,
Yeah.
we can't be expected to be mature all the time. That's
Lord, no.
rude.
That's not,
So,
that's not socially acceptable either.
no, not at all. So, yeah. So, but definitely, and it's interesting now with Scarlett, now that she's older, and she doesn't know any different. You know, she grew up this way, and even now, though, I've noticed it's like 4 is a real doozy. She's like,
she is something.
she's got all kinds of commentary, you know, and she'll say things that I'm like, what? No, you weren't alive when that happened. Like, you just heard it, you know, like you heard that from somewhere, and having to walk her through in a different way, you know, because her experience is different than her brother's, and that's been a challenge as well. So
yeah,
just trying to adapt.
Do you think that, like, what do you think is the crux of being good at co-parenting? Because I think we all are aware that Gwyneth and Chris are like so good at it.
They're really good at it.
They're really good at it. And I'm like, could you guys write like a co-parenting book? Because it's awesome.
Seriously, it would be really, really good. Well, okay. I think if I'm being super honest, I think what it is always like playing the tape out in your head whenever you're having a conversation or a conflict, or, you know, having some kind of issue, or even just like a regular communication, to play it out. And then always remember the goal is that the kids have 2 loving, supportive parents that they feel safe with, and they feel safe expressing their feelings to, you know. And so I never want my kids to have to feel like they have to choose, or feel ashamed that they have, you know, that they love their dad and they miss their dad. And I don't want to ever kind of contribute to that. So that's the first step. I also think that for me, it's a little bit of like a dissociative disorder that I might have.
I mean, isn't that a little bit healthy for all of us?
I mean, I think so. I'm going to go with it's healthy and not psychotic.
Okay,
it's
cool.
Just, I feel like I feel like, honestly, the day I realized this was over and this was happening, I was able to just separate. My relationship with him is over here, and then our relationship with our children is over here. And, you know, the 2 things are different, and they get to be different. And it sucks because it wasn't designed to be that way. And that's when it gets really ugly. But that's kind of how I've managed to work through all of those things. And also, like, just very practically, we don't talk about anything except the kids, because
oh yeah, absolutely.
As good as I've gotten at, you know, being kind and, you know, working all this stuff out, there are times and days where it is insufferable, and I can't help but be very angry, and he'll want to joke or say something, and I'm like, oh hell no, we are not friends. Like, this is not it. This is not what it is. And so it's just, you know, that I think is super important too, to just like
distance yourself.
Yeah, and just to find a new relationship, I think is what has made it successful. And we have better days than others, but I do think, you know, I think we've done a really good job. And he's married, and I am.
Shut your mouth right now. I did not know that.
Surprise!
Stop it. You guys.
And I will say that she is very good to my children, and they love her.
God.
And it's such a blessing. Like, honestly, like, and this is what I told him when he told me they got married. I was like, honestly, like, all I care about is that my kids are taken care of. And I know that she does that. And so I'm happy. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's all that matters to me now. And so I'm just very grateful. We're very fortunate that she is a loving stepmother to them, and that they connect so well with her. So I'm super grateful for that. But, you know, it's just,
oh my gosh, that's longer.
Is what it is.
So going from here now, do you want to get remarried, or is that something that you're like interested in? Are you like me? No thanks.
That's a really good question. You know, I think I have days where I sort of see that idyllic family, you know, and honestly, to be honest, I see it a lot at church, and I feel like that's where I get triggered all the time. Because I'm like, oh, look at all these happy families, must be nice. But like I have those days where I see this picture, you know, the family that I had sort of in my head with the dad and the mom and the little kids, and I've got, you know, extra babies hanging off me, and we're just smiling and laughing and everything is great. And that seems, I feel like, oh, okay, like, yes, I do want that. But when it comes down to it, it's like, ooh, that's a big one for me, just because like marriage to me is so sacred. It's such a vow, you know, before God. And it was such a big deal for me. And to have that kind of pulled out from under me, it concerns me. Like, how would I ever really trust someone else?
Yes, but I will back up and say, look at your parents. Like, your parents have been married for a long time. And Billy Joel is your dad, obviously.
Yes, he is.
And he's the best. Like, he's such a good dad. Like, he's a great husband. So, like, use him as a template.
Yeah, and I have a really good example. And, like, you know, they're incredible because their story is amazing also. And so I definitely have moments where I'm like, okay, like, maybe I could do this again, you know, and we'll see. And then it's like, I think, like, I see like a fresh little baby, you know, like one of the new ones. They're not like loud yet. They're just like sleepy and cute. And I'm like, yep, getting married, having about 10 more of those. And then like I come home to Scarlett some days and I'm like, oh, I'm good. I'm so good.
Never mind, birth control.
We're doing just fine. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I think I'd like to say that I'm open to whatever, you know, the future holds, but I don't know.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you're like super hot, so you should just find like a super hot guy and like.
Well, thank you.
Have more. Like,
I mean, he has to be
babies.
hot,
obviously.
Like this time.
What are we in this for if they're not hot? This time
right?
You're terrible.
What are we doing? Agreed.
Oh my gosh, you're the best. Well, thank you for letting me ask you a million questions and just like
absolutely
bearing your little soul.
Anytime.
Yeah, anytime. I love it. This is like super, super fun. So thanks for doing that for me, dude.
Absolutely.
It's crazy to like hear your voice on the phone. And even though, like, we haven't talked on the phone for like years.
It's been years. Like
years. All we do is like send each other like funny memes on Facebook. Like occasionally we're just like, yeah, hey, we have the same twisted sense of humor.
And anytime I see any like weird like murder documentary thing, I'm like, Andre would love this.
I would love it though. You guys, so bad.
I know.
So bad. That's what I fall asleep to. So you know, I might need a new therapist.
Yep, it's fine. Everything's fine.
Well, thank you guys for joining us this week. Yes. This was super, super fun. And as always, if you have not hit subscribe, go ahead and do that. And they will automatically download. I just had to do that for my neighbor because she didn't know what she was doing. So literally tonight, that's what I was doing.
So good.
Thank you guys. Come back next week for another interview with some cool chick that I know and love. And I will see you back. Bye-bye.
Bye.